Lewis Hamilton disqualified from the Spanish Grand Prix by the FIA after failing a doping test. Stick around to find out all the details. Subscribe just to stay tuned for the Formula One news no one else explains to you. The Formula One universe was plunged into utter chaos late Monday evening as the FIA dropped a seismic announcement that instantly hijacked every conversation in motorsport, media, and fan circles alike. Lewis Hamilton, the revered 7-time world champion, has been officially suspended from participating in the upcoming Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. The reason? A baffling irregularity discovered during what was initially described as a routine anti-doping evaluation conducted in the aftermath of the Monaco Grand Prix. While the FIA made it clear that no officially banned chemical agents were identified in Hamilton's sample, the organization cited serious anomalies in his biological profile, a discovery that has now exploded into what many are calling the most earth-shaking controversy of the 2025 Formula One season. Sources close to the situation suggest that the abnormalities were discovered not in a single isolated reading, but rather across multiple biomarkers associated with Hamilton's oxygen transportation capabilities. The blood work in question showed elevated hemoglobin concentration, unusual red blood cell density, and oxygen-carrying markers that stood out starkly when compared to both previous samples from Hamilton and the standard physiological parameters of elite-level athletes. These deviations, according to FIA medical officers, are highly inconsistent with natural variation and triggered immediate concern over potential performance manipulation, despite no direct evidence of doping agents being found. What's even more perplexing, and frankly alarming for many, is that this entire case now resides in a gray zone. Hamilton hasn't tested positive for any known performance-enhancing drug. There is no EPO, no blood transfusion markers, no synthetic hormones, nothing that would ordinarily merit suspension. And yet, here we are, Hamilton banned from a Grand Prix based on suspicions rooted in biology, not chemistry. The FIA statement, released at 6 a.m. Central European Time, read more like a legal document than a sports press release. Following a detailed analysis conducted as part of our continuous anti-doping compliance strategy, FIA Medical Review Board experts have flagged considerable deviations in Mr. Lewis Hamilton's athlete biological passport. These variations, while not indicative of a banned substance, suggest potential unauthorized physiological enhancements. As such, Mr. Hamilton has been provisionally suspended from all competitive activities, pending a comprehensive investigation. This one paragraph lit the match. Within hours, speculation morphed into outrage. The motorsport community was blindsided. How can an athlete be penalized without a trace of a banned substance? Is this a medical precaution or a character assassination? Is this science or politics? Subscribe just to stay tuned for the Formula One news no one else explains to you. At the Mercedes-AMG Petronas headquarters, the mood was nothing short of apocalyptic. Panic, fury, disbelief. It was a cocktail of emotion exploding behind closed doors. Team boss Toto Wolff, a man usually unflappable even in the face of controversy, reportedly cut short a sponsor meeting and flew straight to Montmello in a private jet. Upon arrival, he locked himself inside the team motorhome for nearly 3 hours with legal advisors, sports scientists, and team physicians. When he finally emerged to speak privately with selected journalists, his words were sharp, deliberate, and dripping with emotion. I've known Lewis for more than a decade. This man defines integrity, dedication, and honor in everything he does. He is the hardest-working, most disciplined athlete I've ever met. I don't care what data someone wants to throw on a graph. This is not doping. This is not enhancement. This is either a scientific misunderstanding or an institutional error, and we will not rest until his name is cleared. Behind the scenes, Mercedes has mobilized a full-scale counteroffensive. They have already hired a team of independent hematologists, forensic biologists, and legal experts in anti-doping litigation. The team is preparing to challenge the validity of the FIA's testing methodology, question the calibration of testing equipment, and even demand the chain of custody records for the blood samples used. Multiple insiders claim that the team is considering legal action against the FIA if Hamilton is not reinstated before Friday's free practice session in Barcelona. Meanwhile, the paddock has become a battlefield of whispered suspicions and hushed conversations. While most drivers have publicly remained neutral, either out of fear or respect, several have allegedly voiced support for Hamilton in internal briefings. A cryptic tweet by Sebastian Vettel that simply read, "The witch hunts never end," went viral in minutes. Max Verstappen, known for his blunt honesty, reportedly told a Dutch outlet, "If they can go after Lewis like this, none of us are safe." What's next? Suspensions for drinking beet juice. Among fans, the reaction has been nothing short of volcanic. Social media platforms are inundated with hashtags like #JusticeForLewis, #FAExposed, and #LetHamiltonRace. Millions are demanding transparency, and some are even calling for a public tribunal. The FIA's own Instagram account has been flooded with comments accusing the organization of bias, corruption, and even racism. Though there is no direct evidence that race played a role, the optics of the situation are inflaming public sentiment. Subscribe just to stay tuned for the Formula One news no one else explains to you. And through it all, Lewis Hamilton himself has said nothing. No tweets. No interviews. No videos. The man who has inspired millions with his words of resilience and courage in the face of adversity has gone completely silent. Those close to him say he is absolutely devastated, not just by the suspension, but by what it implies. A source from within his management team claims he feels personally betrayed by the sport he helped define for nearly 2 decades. One insider remarked, "He's not worried about missing a race. He's worried about being branded a cheat." Lewis knows that once that seed is planted, it never fully goes away. Adding fuel to the fire are rumors that Hamilton may pull out of the rest of the season entirely if the issue is not resolved promptly. While Mercedes has declined to comment on this possibility, Paddock sources suggest that the team is preparing backup contingency plans, including the potential call-up of reserve driver Frederic Vesti to fill Hamilton's seat in Spain, a decision that would mark one of the most surreal weekends in Formula One history. Behind closed doors, the FIA is reportedly split. Some board members believe the organization has overstepped its authority, citing the lack of a concrete violation. Others argue that Hamilton's profile is too irregular to ignore, and that the sport's credibility demands action, however unpopular. Regardless of the outcome, the damage has been done. The reputation of Formula One as a fair and unbiased institution is now on trial alongside Lewis Hamilton. This is no longer just a medical investigation. It's a public reckoning. One that could redefine how biological data is interpreted in elite sport. One that might shift the balance of power between governing bodies and athletes. One that could stain the legacy of the sport's most decorated driver, or galvanize an entirely new chapter of redemption. In a season that was supposed to be about new regulations, technical innovation, and thrilling on-track battles, the story that's now front and center is a haunting question. What happens when a sport designed to measure tenths of a second becomes consumed by questions of trust, truth, and human dignity? Until then, the world waits. The garage stays quiet. The helmet remains on the bench. And somewhere, Lewis Hamilton is preparing for the fight of his life, not on the asphalt, but in the arena of truth. In a moment that jolted the foundations of Formula One and ignited an instant global media firestorm, Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff broke his silence with a sharp and emotionally charged statement on live television. Standing before a throng of reporters and Sky Sports cameras, his words were calm, but the emotion bubbling just beneath the surface was impossible to miss. His jaw was tight, his eyes unreadable, but his loyalty was crystal clear. "I don't buy this for even a heartbeat," Wolff stated, each word measured, deliberate, heavy with conviction. Lewis didn't do anything wrong. Not yesterday, not today, not ever. This ruling has no precedent, none, and the interpretation of this data? It's murky, questionable. It doesn't add up. He'll come back. Stronger. Louder. Unbreakable. Wolff didn't blink. His unwavering gaze into the camera told the world everything. Mercedes was not backing down, and Lewis Hamilton was not going to fade quietly into the shadows. But the shock didn't stop there. Behind closed doors at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, a seismic wave of disbelief swept through the paddock. Just minutes after the final practice sessions wrapped, the drivers assembled for their routine FIA briefing. Phones buzzed. Screens lit up. A confidential notice had been delivered directly to each driver's device. In bold letters, the name Lewis Hamilton flashed across the screen. Silent glances were exchanged. Whispers turned into gasps. The unimaginable had happened. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc, Hamilton's teammate and longtime rival turned close ally, was visibly stunned. He had just eaten lunch with Hamilton hours earlier. The two had laughed, shared stories, discussed qualifying setups. Now, reading the accusations, his face contorted in disbelief. No way, Leclerc muttered, eyes locked on the screen, barely able to process the words. I was literally with him. He was chill, calm, just Lewis. He doesn't need shortcuts. He doesn't even believe in them. This is insane. Moments later, facing the press in a hastily arranged media session, Leclerc chose his words with care, but his message rang out like a thunderclap. Listen, we all want to win, but not like this. Never like this. We're gladiators, yes, but we respect each other. Lewis is a hero in this sport. If he says he's clean, I believe him. 100%. And then, as the storm gained strength and controversy engulfed the paddock, the man at the center of it all stepped forward. With hundreds of reporters, broadcasters, and fans gathered outside his Barcelona hotel, Lewis Hamilton emerged. The air was tense. Camera flashes pierced the twilight. He walked slowly to the microphones, the crowd parting in silence. He wore no race suit, no helmet, just a black hoodie and fierce determination in his eyes. I am absolutely devastated, Hamilton began, his voice low but steady, projecting the calm of a man who had been through storms before. But let me be crystal clear, not once in my entire career have I ever used any banned substance. Never. Not a drop. Not a pill. Not an injection. Nothing. You could hear a pin drop. I have taken hundreds of tests. Blood. Urine. Random checks. Hair follicle scans. Everything. I have never failed one. Until today. And this? This has to be a mistake. Whether it's a lab mix-up, a procedural screw-up, or something more sinister, I don't know yet. But I will find out. And I will not rest until the truth is exposed. Hamilton took a breath. His voice cracked slightly, not from fear, but from sheer intensity. This isn't just about me. It's about every athlete who plays fair. Every fan who believes in justice. I owe it to all of you, to my team, my family, and everyone who's ever believed in me, to fight this with every resource I have. This is not over. Not even close. He paused. And then, like a general declaring war, he delivered his final words. I'm taking legal action. Right now. The appeal to the FIA and to the Court of Arbitration for Sport is already in motion. We will uncover the truth. The reaction? Immediate. Explosive. Unprecedented. Mercedes' legal and technical teams sprang into overdrive. Engineers reviewed biometric data, telemetry, hydration logs, and nutritional intake from the last 2 weeks. Every single medical report from team doctors, every supplement, down to protein shakes and electrolyte packets, was catalogued and reanalyzed. Meanwhile, a secure transport carried Hamilton's B sample to a neutral third-party facility, one of the most advanced doping control labs in Europe, for rapid testing. Results were expected within 48 hours. But insiders claimed Mercedes wouldn't stop there. One source whispered, if necessary, we'll run tests in 5 different countries. 10 if we have to. From behind the scenes, lawyers began assembling a comprehensive legal case, including sworn affidavits from team doctors, dietitians, and even rival teams who'd worked with Hamilton over the years. The data doesn't lie, one senior Mercedes official said anonymously. And we have mountains of it. Elsewhere, the FIA found itself in the center of a maelstrom. Questions began pouring in. Was the test result leaked too soon? Was the lab accredited? Was the testing chain of custody followed precisely? Calls for transparency grew louder by the hour. Public sentiment was clear and powerful. Fans from around the globe mobilized almost instantly. Social media platforms exploded with hashtags like hashtag #IStandWithLewis, hashtag #LetHimRace, and hashtag FIAExplainNow. Tens of millions of posts, retweets, and videos poured in within hours. Protest banners appeared outside the circuit gates. Digital billboards in downtown Barcelona were hacked to display justice for Lewis. The Formula One world has been thrown into an extraordinary whirlwind of disbelief, passion, and escalating tension following recent revelations that have sparked a seismic reaction across every corner of the motorsport universe. What started as a quiet clinical anomaly flagged within the internal data systems has now exploded into an all-out cultural flashpoint. Drivers, former champions, analysts, fans, journalists, and millions of emotionally charged supporters around the world have taken to every platform imaginable, voicing their reactions with growing intensity. There's no escaping it. The global conversation has become louder, more impassioned, and more polarized by the hour. Social media has transformed into a digital battleground. On X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, and Instagram, hashtags like #JusticeForLewis, #FAExplanationNow, and #StandWith44 aren't just trending, they're dominating timelines in over 60 countries. Millions of fans have flooded the internet with emotional posts, conspiracy theories, timeline breakdowns, highlight reels, and personalized support videos. From Sao Paulo to Silverstone, from Tokyo to Toronto, images of fans holding handmade protest banners, crying in Hamilton merch, and quoting his most iconic lines have gone viral. Entire F1 subreddits have entered meltdown mode. Discord servers are overflowing with voice chats filled with frantic fans dissecting every rumor, statement, and silence from the paddock. Influential voices from within the sport have weighed in, further intensifying the emotional firestorm. Four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel, often seen as the moral compass of modern F1, delivered a powerful message in support of Hamilton, warning against the danger of trial by algorithm. He stressed the importance of justice being grounded in truth, not data anomalies. Fernando Alonso, despite his legendary rivalry with Hamilton, called for absolute fairness, total transparency, and a refusal to allow science to overshadow common sense. Even Nico Rosberg, who once engaged in one of the fiercest intra-team rivalries in F1 history, made a rare appearance to advocate for humanity, patience, and trust in a process that must remain impartial and not political. But as the world focuses on the public outcry and emotional support, whispers are getting louder behind the curtains. High-level sources, team insiders, medical professionals, and paddock veterans have begun to question not Hamilton, but the integrity and precision of the FIA's biological monitoring protocols. There is increasing unease about whether the systems in place are technologically sophisticated enough to handle the extreme, ever-changing physiological demands of elite-level drivers. Some insiders fear that the tools designed to ensure fairness may now be teetering on the edge of becoming instruments of injustice due to misapplied science and rigid interpretation. At the core of the controversy is the Athlete Biological Passport System, a data-driven platform that tracks long-term biomarkers to identify any suspicious changes in physiology. It's not a single drug test or banned substance detection that's causing concern. It's a pattern irregularity, a deviation from Hamilton's historical biometric norms, that has triggered red flags. But what does that even mean in a sport like F1, where the line between physical endurance and human limitation is constantly pushed, bent, and redrawn? One anonymous FIA medical officer, risking their position to speak candidly, shared alarming insights into how such discrepancies can emerge. We're not dealing with robots. Drivers are subjected to extreme environments, sudden altitude changes, chronic dehydration, transcontinental jet lag, sleep deprivation from relentless media duties, and unimaginable stress levels. All of these can send biometrics into flux. When we build systems that assume static conditions for athletes operating under dynamic extremes, we're essentially punishing them for their humanity. The assumption of doping without context or nuance is not just unfair, it's dangerous. The officer further explained that a positive result is not what's at stake here. There has been no confirmed illegal substance. What's really unfolding is the AI-driven suspicion of tampering based solely on data irregularities, patterns the system deems improbable, even though human biology under extreme pressure is anything but predictable. In other words, the FIA's internal mechanisms might be mistaking natural biological responses for foul play. This controversy has cracked open a much larger, far more uncomfortable conversation about the role of technology, data interpretation, and institutional trust in modern F1. The sport, known for its relentless pursuit of precision and performance, is suddenly faced with a terrifying possibility that its own regulatory tools might be too crude, too inflexible, or too detached from the messy realities of elite human performance. The echoes of past controversies only add fuel to the fire. Several years ago, another test-related incident quietly unraveled behind closed doors, involving a mid-grid driver whose results were delayed, misinterpreted, and ultimately dismissed after months of confusion and whispers. Back then, inconsistencies in test result processing, especially between labs in different countries with varying levels of equipment and expertise, were quietly swept under the rug. Today, with Hamilton at the center, the stakes are exponentially higher. Some insiders are beginning to entertain the idea that this may not be just a technical glitch or a misunderstanding. Theories, ranging from plausible to borderline conspiratorial, are gaining traction in private WhatsApp chats, encrypted email chains, and hush-hush Paddock conversations. Could this be a deliberate distraction from other institutional failings? Is someone trying to discredit Hamilton during his final F1 chapters, potentially influencing his legacy, contract negotiations, or post-retirement career options? Could internal factions within the FIA be exploiting the system's ambiguity to send a warning or regain political control? A former team principal, also speaking anonymously, didn't mince words. There's a reason we say F1 is 70% politics and 30% racing. Now we're watching what happens when flawed data interpretation collides with global superstardom. These systems weren't built to understand the bodies of superhumans. If you interpret deviations as deception, without deeper context, then you're not regulating, you're executing. In the middle of this chaos, Lewis Hamilton himself has said virtually nothing. No press conferences, no emotional speeches, no rants. Just a single haunting Instagram story, a serene video of a sunset over a city skyline, with a quote that shook his fanbase to the core. Truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Let it loose. It will defend itself. That one message has been shared hundreds of thousands of times, analyzed word by word, dissected for tone, meaning, and intent. It has become a quiet rallying cry, a signal to his fans that he will not beg, will not break, and will let time expose the truth. The FIA, under relentless pressure, has promised to conduct a full internal review of its testing protocols and biometric evaluation criteria. But critics say this is too little too late, calling it a reactionary PR move rather than a genuine attempt to address foundational flaws in how athletes are evaluated and potentially condemned. Many are demanding independent oversight, third-party medical audits, and a complete overhaul of how data is collected, interpreted, and presented as evidence. This is no longer about just one man. This is about trust in the system, about faith in fairness, and about the fragile line between regulation and overreach. In a sport where hundredths of a second can change everything, the notion that a misunderstood biomarker could define or destroy a legend's career has struck a nerve that no public statement, no algorithm, and no boardroom meeting can silence. The world is watching, not just because it's Lewis Hamilton. The world is watching because this story touches something deeper than racing. It touches our collective belief that greatness should be earned, judged fairly, and remembered truthfully. At this very moment, the world of Formula One finds itself suspended in a surreal state of disbelief. What was supposed to be a celebration of speed, strategy, and Spanish pride has devolved into one of the most confounding, emotionally charged, and downright unsettling weekends the sport has seen in decades. One thing, and one thing only, has been confirmed with absolute finality. Lewis Hamilton will not be racing at the Spanish Grand Prix. Not due to injury. Not due to illness. Not even as a tactical decision. He's simply gone. Withdrawn. Removed from the entry list without a single lap completed. And the silence surrounding the reason is deafening. Ferrari, in an announcement that left even their staunchest supporters stunned, declared that they would not assign a substitute driver for Hamilton. No Schwartzman. No Giovinazzi. No emergency call-ups. Out of what they cryptically labeled a gesture of respect and reflection, the iconic team will field just a single car in Sunday's race, piloted solely by Carlos Sainz, on home soil no less, under an atmosphere so tense you could slice through it with a scalpel. It's a decision that has triggered a maelstrom of speculation, emotion, and outright confusion within the paddock, the media, and millions of fans around the globe. The paddock at Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, normally alive with the buzz of engineers, strategists, sponsors, and team principals, now feels like the stage of a Shakespearean tragedy. Conversations are whispered, glances are exchanged with caution, and every step near the Ferrari hospitality unit is monitored with military-like precision. An aura of anxiety has blanketed the entire circuit. The Ferrari motorhome, where Hamilton was last seen exiting late Thursday evening, now resembles a fortress, cordoned off, cameras banned, and team personnel avoiding all questions related to the British driver's abrupt disappearance. Outside the circuit, the situation is even more surreal. Thousands of fans have gathered, not to watch a legend race, but to demand answers. Some chant his name. Others simply cry. Handcrafted signs reading "Truth for Lewis, where's Hamilton?" and you can't silence number 44 are held high by supporters who traveled across continents for what was supposed to be another masterclass in driving by the 7-time world champion. Their chants echo across the Catalonian hills, mixing with the drone of helicopters and the background hum of confused commentators grasping for anything resembling a narrative. Inside the media center, speculation has reached a fever pitch. Seasoned journalists, some of whom have covered F1 for over 30 years, admit they have never encountered anything quite like this. Every plausible theory has been floated: a confidential dispute with the FIA, a potentially explosive disagreement with Ferrari's technical team, new data that Hamilton reportedly rejected outright, or even a classified internal investigation involving Hamilton's telemetry. And then there are the more sinister whispers: claims of outside interference, alleged threats to Hamilton's safety, or secret meetings behind closed doors involving figures far removed from racing. The only public word from Hamilton himself has been a solitary, enigmatic post on social media, a photograph of a darkened sky over Barcelona captioned with just 5 words: "When silence speaks, listen closely." That single sentence has triggered a digital firestorm. Fans, pundits, and conspiracy theorists alike have dissected it frame by frame, analyzing it like a cryptic message from a man at war not just with the system, but perhaps with something, or someone, far more powerful. Meanwhile, within Ferrari, emotions are reaching their breaking point. Sources suggest team boss Frédéric Vasseur has barely left the strategy room since Friday, reportedly holding continuous meetings with FIA officials, legal advisors, and senior engineers. It is understood that Hamilton's absence is not only a blow to their competitive strategy, but a potential legal and reputational crisis that could spiral well beyond the boundaries of the sport. One insider described the mood as apocalyptic, while another said, "This is not a racing issue anymore. This is something else entirely." Carlos Sainz, who now bears the full weight of Ferrari's hopes on his shoulders, has remained characteristically composed in public, but insiders say he is devastated by the sudden turn of events. Privately, it said he had developed deep respect for Hamilton and was eagerly anticipating the challenge of racing alongside him at home. Now Sainz faces a lonely battle, emotionally, competitively, and politically, under a spotlight that has never burned brighter or more unforgiving. Elsewhere on the grid, there's an unspoken sense of solidarity. Max Verstappen, in a moment of uncharacteristic seriousness, said in the press pen, "This is bigger than racing. Whatever Lewis is facing, I hope he knows we're all watching, and we're all waiting." Lando Norris added, "None of this feels right. I've never seen anything like this. It's like something is being hidden." Even longtime rival Fernando Alonso called the situation a scar on the face of Formula One. Behind the scenes, the FIA is now under extreme scrutiny. Already battered by years of criticism over inconsistent penalties, political favoritism, and opaque governance, the organization is facing what many believe could be an existential crisis. If Hamilton's disappearance is revealed to be the result of internal mishandling, coercion, or any form of external manipulation, it could trigger a mass reckoning. Sponsors are reportedly watching closely. Drivers' unions are beginning to stir. And legal advisors across multiple teams have been placed on standby, just in case. And yet, through all of this chaos, Hamilton's silence roars louder than the 1.6-liter turbocharged hybrid engines that define the modern era of Formula One. He has not spoken to the press. He has not returned to the paddock. He has not even acknowledged the official statements made in his name. This is not the silence of defeat, it is the silence of resistance, of protest, of a man who may no longer be fighting for lap times and podiums, but for principles, integrity, and justice. Hamilton, never one to shy away from confrontation when it matters most, seems to be drawing a line, not just for himself, but for the very soul of the sport. As the race weekend continues, the absence of car number 44 is impossible to ignore. Cameras linger on his empty garage. Commentary teams struggle to maintain focus as their minds, and microphones, inevitably drift back to the controversy. Fans refresh social feeds in desperation, hoping for a word, a signal, any indication of what's to come. And yet, there is only silence. But make no mistake, this will not fade away. It will not be forgotten. It will be investigated, debated, chronicled, and remembered. Netflix will make an entire season around it. Books will be written. Documentaries will probe every angle. Because this is no longer just about racing. It's about power, secrecy, identity, and truth. It's about a driver who, in choosing absence, has made the loudest statement of his career. And the world is listening.